Welcome to the deep dive. You've sent us a really fascinating set of sources. We've got everything from global university rankings to some very specific labor stats in Hungary, and we're here to pull out the key insights for you.
Right. And today we're focusing our analysis on let's say, a very specific and complex environment. Borsod-Abaúj-Zemplén County. People usually just call it BAZ County.
And it's in the North Hungary region, which is, historically faced some challenges.
Exactly. And the sources really show this core tension. BAZ is in a region that's always sort of grappling with economic headwinds, but at the same time, it has this major institutional anchor.
Miskolc University.
Miskolc University, exactly. And so our mission today is to really unpack the data we have, the labor market context, the university's actual standing on a global scale, and even some local cultural stats.
All to paint a realistic picture of where BAZ County stands, especially compared to some of the more successful parts of Hungary. For you listening, this is really a blueprint for understanding the kinds of challenges these developing regions face all over the world.
That's the goal.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we have to start with the big, hard numbers, the macroeconomic reality of Hungary's labor market.
We really do. We have to set the context first. And looking at the macro data, especially this snapshot from 2006, you can see this massive geographical divide. It's really stark.
A divide between East and West.
Pretty much. If you look at the western part of the country, specifically the central Transdanubia region, that goes up to Nantul, the economy there was just, it was humming along.
How well are we talking?
Well, in 2006, central Transdanubia had an unemployment rate of just 6.1%.
6.1. Okay, and to put that in perspective for us.
That was the third lowest rate in all of Hungary. It was also, significantly better than the national average, which was sitting at about 7.5%. So that region was a real hub of economic stability.
Okay, so you have this robust, high employment engine on one side of the country. Now let's pivot to the region BAZ County is in.
Right, North Hungary, or Észak-Magyarország. The data is it's unambiguous. This region was, and had been for a very long time, the most severely impacted by unemployment.
You mean long-term structural unemployment?
Yes, exactly. Over the 14 years leading up to 2006, this area consistently, year after year, had the highest rate of job seekers in the economically active population.
And what was the actual number for 2006?
11%. An 11.0% unemployment rate.
Wow. So that's not just a small difference. You're talking about 6.1% on one side and 11.0% on the other.
It's a systemic gulf. It's almost double. And that kind of gap represents this immense structural drag on a region.
And for BZ County, that really frames the whole problem, doesn't it? They're living inside this chronic high unemployment zone. The challenge isn't just about creating a few jobs. It's about fighting against this tide of, strained local budgets, lower local demand, maybe even skilled people leaving.
Absolutely. When you have chronic unemployment like that, it touches everything. Infrastructure, regional morale, the whole economic environment is almost actively working against any institution that's trying to build for the future.
Which is the perfect segue to education.
It is.
And that's where our institutional anchor comes in. So here's where it gets really interesting, because Miskolc University is supposed to be one of the keys to breaking that cycle. It's meant to train people, attract innovation, but how does it actually stack up on the world stage?
That's a great question. And we can gauge that reputation pretty well using the QS World University Rankings. It's, one of the main global benchmarks.
And just being on the list is a big deal, right?
Oh, absolutely. Maintaining a presence there, no matter where you are in the ranking, is a significant marker of quality. It means you're on the global map.
Okay, so tell us about Miskolc. Where does it sit?
In the most recent rankings, the ones for 2026, Miskolc University is in the 1,001 to 1,200 bracket.
Okay.
And interestingly, that's actually a slight improvement from the year before.
Oh, really? What was the previous ranking?
In the 2025 rankings, Miskolc was a little bit lower in the 1,201 to 1,400 bracket. So they've taken a small step forward globally. We also have the European ranking for 2025, where it came in at 496th.
When you hear numbers like 1,000 or 1,200, it's easy for a listener to think, well, that sounds miles away from Harvard or Oxford. But what does being consistently in that range actually mean for a regional economy like the one in BAZ?
It means they have sustained global visibility. It means they meet the fundamental benchmarks that QS looks for in research, in academic reputation, employer reputation. If Miskolc were to just drop off that list entirely, BAZ County would lose its primary intellectual anchor. It's that important.
And to give it some more context, let's compare it to the top universities in the country, the ones that are often in those stronger economic regions. Where do places like Debrecen or ELTE in Budapest land?
Good comparison. Debrecen University, for instance, ranked 563rd in that 2026 QS World Ranking.
Okay, so quite a bit higher.
Yes. And Etepfa's Lorand University, ELTE, was at 584th. So they are definitely ranked significantly higher than Miskolc.
That really helps clarify the hierarchy. So Miskolc is lower on the list, but the critical point here is that it is on the list. It's consistently present in these really demanding global and European rankings,
Right.
which just reinforces its vital role. It's a center for knowledge, for talent right there in North Hungary, an engine that is desperately needed in an area with an 11% unemployment rate.
Absolutely. The university is a massive asset. It's fighting against those economic headwinds, trying to produce high-value graduates who hopefully will stay in the region and build it up.
But people don't just stay for a job, right? They stay for a quality of life, for culture.
A sense of identity. That's a huge piece of the puzzle.
And that makes for a smooth transition. The economic picture is tough, we get that. But is BAZ managing to maintain a strong quality of life to balance it out? Let's shift to the cultural landscape. We have some data on museum infrastructure.
Yes, and this non-economic side of things is a really critical piece. So looking at the number of museum institutions in BAZ County, the latest update for 2025 shows they have a pretty substantial number.
And that number is?
56. 56 museum institutions.
56. That's actually a significant cultural base. How has that number changed over time? Does it track with the economic ups and downs?
It shows a lot of long-term volatility, which you'd expect to see with economic instability. If you go all the way back to 1992, BAZ had 63 institutions.
Okay, even more.
Right. But then it dipped pretty sharply over the next decade. It bottomed out at just 47 institutions in 2002 before climbing back up to the 56 we see today.
So they lost about a quarter of their cultural infrastructure and then had to fight to build some of it back.
That's a good way to put it. That fluctuation from 63 down to 47 back to 56, it suggests that cultural funding, which really depends on stable local economies, it just hasn't been a guarantee there.
But how does it stack up against its neighbors?
Well, relative to its peers, BAZ is culturally quite dense. If you look at a neighboring county, Heves County, their 2025 count was 29 museums.
29, so BAZ is nearly double.
Almost double. And that density, it speaks to a deep historical richness, maybe some tourism potential, and a strong sense of regional identity. And those are all key parts of quality of life.
Yeah.
That soft power that makes a place worth living in.
So the story that's emerging is this. A historically rich, culturally dense region that's economically distressed, but it's trying to leverage its main educational asset against these huge unemployment numbers. Which brings us right back to the big question, how do you fix that 11%? And this is where we have to look at the counterpoint Central Transdanubia, the region that seems to have figured it out.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Well,
yes, we have to look at what made that other region so robust. It's the strategic comparator for a place like BAZ.
so what was their secret?
Well, the core lesson from Central Transdanubia's success, especially in that mid-2000s period, was concentrated economic specialization. Their strategy was industry, and they went all in.
How all in are we talking?
In 2006, 44% of the entire workforce in Central Transnubia was employed in industry and construction. Combined,
It's 44%. That's a huge number.
it's massive. Compare that to the national average of 32.3%, or even the wider EU25 average at the time, which was 27.5%. Central Transdanubia was, you could say, hyper-focused on manufacturing.
And was that focus spread out evenly, or was it in specific pockets?
It was localized, but also very interconnected across the three main counties in that region.
Yeah.
Kamarum Estragum was the most specialized. 40% of his whole workforce was in the processing industry, the Felddolgozoipar.
And that term implies something more than just basic assembly, right?
It does. It implies higher value, more organized manufacturing. Then you had Frigere County at 34% and Veszprém at 30% in that same industry. It created this powerful regional engine.
And the crucial part, and this really addresses the problem BAZ faces, isn't just the number of jobs, it's that these were good jobs, high-paying jobs.
Exactly right. This concentration translated directly into a significant wage advantage. It was a powerful tool for attracting and keeping talent. For example, industrial employees in Frigere County earned, get this, 16% more than the national average salary.
16% more.
And in Kamarum Estragum, it was 11% more.
A 16% pay bump over the national average is a massive economic incentive. It completely explains why that region had such low unemployment. People would move there for those jobs.
It provided a very clear, very profitable career path. But, and this is an important nuance for a place like BAZ to consider, even within that successful cluster, things weren't uniform.
What's the key nuance there?
Not all industrial jobs were created equal. Look at Veszprém County. Despite having 30% of its workforce in that same processing industry, its industrial workers actually earned 9% less than the national average.
Oh, interesting. So just having industry isn't enough.
It tells us that the commitment has to be to the high-value, high-return industrial segments. The type of manufacturing matters immensely.
That variance is a fantastic detail. Fugere earning 16% more, Veszprém 9% less. It really underscores that BAZ can't just copy the model. It has to copy the high-value part of the model.
That's the takeaway. The data clearly shows BAZ exists in a region that's struggling, contrasting so sharply with Central Transdanubia's industrial focus and its high wages. Miskolc University is trying its best to build a skilled workforce, but it's doing it in an environment that is just systematically hostile to that kind of high-wage growth.
So what does this all mean? We've navigated a pretty complex stack of sources here, from museum counts and global university rankings all the way to this very granular labor data, and the evidence just consistently points to this dramatic regional disparity in Hungary.
It does. It's all centered on specialization and, remuneration. The data confirms the strategic challenge. Central Transdanubia threw more than half its workforce into industry and construction to succeed. North Hungary just did.
Yeah.
It didn't have that kind of overwhelming, concentrated economic driver.
The key takeaway feels like it's about leverage. BAZ has a great university. It has a surprisingly dense cultural infrastructure, but the primary economic reality is still that massive unemployment rate.
That's right.
So I guess the ultimate strategic question the sources leave us with is this. Central Transdanubia's success was built on this intense industrial model. Does BAZ County have to replicate that same structure to finally lower its chronic unemployment?
Or is there another way? Can they use their unique strengths, that cultural density we talked about, or maybe specific research coming out of Miskolc University, to create a different kind of economic leverage, one that maybe avoids total dependence on heavy manufacturing?
That is the dilemma. The path that's been proven to work elsewhere involved converting a huge workforce reserve, which BAZ clearly has, into high-value jobs through industrial concentration.
And if BAZ can't or won't replicate that industrial intensity, they need to find an equally powerful, equally focused specialization to finally overcome that systemic economic drag that's held North Hungary back for so long.
A truly fascinating strategic dilemma for BAZ, and it's underscored by every piece of data we've looked at today. We hope this knowledge helps empower you to continue your own exploration into regional development. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.